All right, we're going to tackle a pretty big idea today. It's all about a fundamental upgrade to how we solve our most complex problems. It's called Transdisciplinarity 3.x. And really, at its core, it's about building a better architecture for how we think. And frankly, it's something our world desperately needs right now.
We've all seen this happen. We gather the smartest people, all the right stakeholders, everyone comes in with the best intentions to tackle some massive challenge. And yet, so often, the result is just kind of underwhelming. We get stuck, and it's that why. Why do we get stuck? That's really at the heart of what we're exploring. And this quote, well, it gets right to the heart of the diagnosis. See, the problem isn't a lack of trying. The research suggests our methods often lead to something called shallow synthesis. You can think of it like this. We check all the boxes on including everyone, but their different perspectives never truly merge into something new. So what we end up with are these fragile agreements that look great on paper, but just shatter the second they face any real-world pressure.
So what's the alternative? Well, this is where Transdisciplinarity 3.x, we'll just call it TD 3.x for short, comes into the picture. It represents a real evolution in our thinking. It argues that we have to move beyond just including people and start really orchestrating the process, designing a space where their collective knowledge can truly combine and create something stronger.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this slide frames the core shift perfectly. The old way of thinking was kind of obsessed with the guest list, right? The main question was, did we invite the right stakeholders? TD 3.x asks a much deeper and honestly a much more important question. Once they're all here, what are the participants actually capable of doing together? It's a huge shift from just attendance to actual collective capacity.
And that leads us to this really powerful new metaphor. TD3.x says we need to stop thinking of ourselves as discussion moderators and start acting like architects of inquiry. It's not about just managing a conversation anymore. We're actually designing the very structure, the architecture, of how a group can think and build knowledge together. That's what epistemic architecture really means. It's a profound change in perspective.
Okay, so how do we actually become these architects? Well, TD 3.x gives us a new toolkit, a set of what it calls lenses for seeing our complex reality a lot more clearly. And this is where we really start to see the crucial upgrades, the stuff that previous frameworks were totally missing. So first up is the developmental lens, and honestly, this is a total game changer. It acknowledges a simple but so often ignored truth. People have different capacities for dealing with complexity and ambiguity. This lens finally gives us a language and a reason for why a perfectly designed process with all the quote-unquote right people can still completely fall apart. Turns out, inclusion just isn't enough if the cognitive demands of the problem are way beyond the group's capacity. The second new tool is the lens of adaptive leadership. Now, this brings a much-needed dose of hard reality into the mix. It recognizes that solving big problems requires real change, and people resist that change, not because they're irrational, but because real change often involves a genuine sense of loss or even a threat to their identity. This lens helps us diagnose the emotional and, the political reality of the work we're trying to do.
And here's where it gets really powerful. You've put these two lenses together, and you've got an incredible diagnostic tool. The developmental lens helps us understand the people. What's their actual cognitive capacity? And the adaptive leadership lens helps us understand the problem. What's its emotional and political nature? Together, you get a much, much more complete picture than older frameworks ever gave us.
Now, the third big upgrade is how TD 3.x treats this idea of reflexivity. In the old way, this was kind of just about a personal reminder to, check your assumptions. But here, it's about building self-correction into the very foundation of the project. Think of it like a building's plumbing or its electrical systems. It becomes part of the essential infrastructure of inquiry, something that's constantly running in the background to question the methods, the goals, and the framing of the work itself. This table right here really spells out those fundamental upgrades. Just look at these three areas. First, on stakeholders, we're moving from just including them to actually assessing their capacity. Second, tools and methods. We stop just collecting huge toolkits and start focusing on curation, on finding the absolute right fit for the job. And third, and this is absolutely critical for our time, is AI. Older frameworks simply had no answer for it. TD3X builds it in as a core partner. See? These aren't just little tweaks. This is a complete overhaul. So let's dig into that last point, because the way TD 3.x sees artificial intelligence is really unique and incredibly forward-thinking.
It shifts AI from being just another tool in the box to being a genuine cognitive partner in the entire process of inquiry. And this leads to a pretty revolutionary idea, the extended cognitive phenotype. Now, I know, that's a fancy term, but the idea behind it is profound. It basically means our thinking is no longer just confined to our own brains. It's extending outward, merging with AI to create this new hybrid human-AI thinking system. The AI isn't just a gadget we use. It actually becomes part of how we think. So what does this partnership actually look like in practice? Well, it's this powerful four-step loop. Step 1, we, the humans, we pose the questions and frame the problem. Step 2, the AI jumps in as a partner, providing the scaffolding by challenging our assumptions and stress testing our ideas. And that leads to Step 3, this recursive loop, where we and the AI refine the inquiry together, over and over. And the result? Step 4, amplified insight. This hybrid system can generate breakthroughs that neither human nor AI could ever have reached alone.
Okay, this all sounds really great in theory, but what's the practical payoff? I mean, what real-world problems does having a better architecture actually solve? Let's bring this all back down to earth and answer that big "so what" question. So what does this actually solve? Well, it directly addresses all those reasons why our big collaborative efforts so often fail. It explains why just having people in a room isn't enough by looking at their actual capacity. It forces us to account for the messy political reality of change. It helps us diagnose resistance correctly. And it builds in that self-correction and a true AI partnership to push us way past our usual blind spots. It's really a toolkit designed for the real world's complexity. And that's the ultimate goal here. By improving the architecture of how we think, we do so much more than just solve problems a little better. We expand what's called the innovation surface. Imagine you're farming a tiny plot of land. This new architecture is like transforming that little plot into a vast, fertile landscape. You just create so many more possibilities, more places for brand new ideas and breakthrough solutions to grow. It's not just about fixing things, it's about creating a much more generative future. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. The framework of TD3.X, it isn't just some academic exercise. It's a serious proposal for a major upgrade to our collective intelligence. So what intractable problem, what grand challenge that we're facing today could we finally start to solve if we were just brave enough to change the very architecture of how we think about it?